The Pacers have enough offensively where they can make things miserable for the Celtics, and maybe it is a 2-0 series lead or a 3-0 series lead, and that's when the Pacers steal that win. But I just don't see much more than that because, listen, Boston is healthy, especially once they get Porzingis back after the first couple of games, which I would say just sit and let them wait. Yeah. This is going to be a really, really tough series for the Pacers to win probably more than one. As long as Boston, though, comes out with the mindset that this is their championship to lose. The Nuggets are done. We thought Nuggets, Celtics, that's the NBA Finals. Well, now the Nuggets are out. So this is the Celtics championship. Your Celtics championship.
Yeah.
It is theirs to lose right now.
Better be the year, man. I mean, this is pretty much, I'm not going to say this is a cakewalk, but because you don't have Porzingis for at least the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals. But, I mean, Indiana, nobody expected this team to be here.
Mm-hmm.
But, that said, the Siakam move, we said this, around the trade deadline. I really like that pickup. You're getting Pascal Siakam, a guy with playoff experience, a guy that's won an NBA championship. You know, Tyrese Halliburton got off to a crazy start. Then he had that injury. Then he wasn't really the same player. But now he's got, he's finding his confidence once again. And every other night, it could be somebody else for this Indiana team. The only thing I worry about going up against a team like Boston's really good defensively, whereas Indiana is not. But in that Knicks series, to close things out, they played much better defensively. Or did they? Or is it just the Knicks didn't really have a whole lot of shot creators and they were just beat up? You're right, though. This is the better series because the Pacers are the healthier team. Yeah. We don't want to see the Knicks all beat up. Even if Jalen Brunson was out there at 50%, 60%, which is where he was.
It's not competitive.
And he wasn't going to be able to play in the series, with one hand. So I do think that it's the matchup that we deserve as basketball fans, but I don't know how good it's going to be. That said, I did take the Pacers plus 1.5 series game spread plus 275 over at BetMGM because I think that this is just a little inflated. The Celtics are the better team, but minus 900 couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to go Indiana 6-1 unless there's an injury to Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I can't make the case for them to actually win this series, but I can make the case for them to steal 2 games. I can see them winning one in Indiana. That's a real home court advantage, as we saw. Pacers fans are crazy. And then they could steal one in Boston because Boston, for whatever reason, the last 30 games in the playoffs, they're 500 with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, this little new era that they have, or dynasty, whatever you want to call it, because they haven't won a championship.
Definitely not a dynasty.
I don't know what
I wouldn't call it that.
This little run that they've had.
Just call it era.
Yeah, this era that they've had. Should be a dynasty. But, they always drop at least one in Boston, and I could see Indiana taking one in Indiana. So I'll take a shot with the Pacers. I just really like that price. Plus 1.5. I think they could steal 2 games, and it's plus 275. You could either do that or you could play Indiana 9.5 game 1. It'll probably be 9.5, maybe 10 game 2. You know what I mean? You could go game by game, but I think they could steal 2. But I don't know. I'm more and more talking myself into Minnesota's probably going to win the championship.
Wow, you're going all the way in on that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Ant right now is on another level. He's 3-1 to be Finals MVP.
Yeah.
You know, Rudy Gobert had a tough stretch there for a couple games against Jokic, but they won the series. Karl Anthony Towns, man, he showed up in some big spots. And then they just have a bunch of role players that I really like. If it's McDaniels, if it's, it really could be anybody, any given night. Damn, I need Caitlin Clark back in this game.
She did walk back to the bench.
Yeah.
So real quick, Caitlin Clark now walking back to the bench after leaving with that ankle injury, it looked like. So
I'm getting updates on my phone about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, I don't know, man. It's a tough series to call right now. It really is. Who would have thought that it was going to be Minnesota in Dallas, and Denver would actually be knocked out. So if I was going to make a bet today, I would go with Kyrie because of price, 40-1.
Sure.
Or even Cat 40-1, to be honest with you. I'm looking like somewhere around that range because we've just missed all these prices. You could have had a better number on Tatum, and I don't know that the Celtics are going to win the championship anyway. You could have had a better number on Ant and on Luka. So I'd probably still at least look to get something 25-1 or better. And I can't make the case for Tyrese Halliburton because Indiana's not going to win this series against Boston unless there's a crazy injury.
Yeah, he's 30-1. So I would say this. If Minnesota makes the NBA Finals, and they've obviously got to get through the Mavericks first, you have more of an opportunity, I think, for a wider range of potential MVPs for the Finals with Minnesota than you would Dallas. Luka, healthy, likely going to win Finals MVP if he were to win the title this year. If the Celtics were to win the title, you could argue Tatum or Jaylen Brown. It feels like it probably would be a Tatum, though, still. Even if he averages 25 and 6, that's enough to probably win it unless Jaylen Brown goes off. But if you look at Minnesota, it could be Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
It could be Karl Anthony Towns. You could, I mean, what if Rudy Gobert goes crazy and averages like
What if it's Mike Conley
double,
going crazy?
Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
could be Mike Conley. No, and again, it's not. It's just like I would be more confident right now in saying Tatum for the Celtics winning the Finals MVP or Luka winning it for Dallas if they were to go there and win versus Minnesota being in the Finals.
For sure.
And knowing there's like a legit chance that a Karl Anthony Towns even or an Anthony Edwards. Like I feel like the gap, odds aside, just the gap in like what you see on the court.
Yeah.
It could, because we've watched Anthony Edwards have big, huge, massive games, 40-plus points, and then kind of disappear for a while, too, and say, okay, I'm going to be a facilitator because I'm not hitting my shots. And Karl Anthony Towns gets more comfortable out there and contributes for them, too.
I guess some people would call these two unlikely teams, even though they were both, well, Minnesota was really good all regular season long. Some people kind of surprised that Dallas, Luka, and Kyrie looks like it's going to work out. What do you like in this series?
Man, I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so fun. I think I lean Minnesota, and the reason for that is that Minnesota has the bodies in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards to be able to throw a lot of really interesting looks at Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, right? They're going to be able to really defend. Like Anthony Edwards, I think has gotten a little bit overrated because of his off-ball defense being a little bit bad. He's certainly like this fantastic, unbelievable player overall, but I mean specifically on the defensive end. I think Anthony Edwards has moments where he kind of loses track of his guys off the ball. On the ball, though, like he can be a menace. Like we saw, they would open games a lot of the time against Denver with him guarding Jamal Murray and just trying to annoy him, right? Nickeil Alexander-Walker has turned into this unbelievable perimeter defender, and then Jaden McDaniels is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. So being able to throw bodies at the problem for Dallas and the problem that Dallas is going to create for you, I think is a real advantage that Minnesota holds over Dallas. Dallas has a lot of different ways. The reason that I loved Dallas coming into this playoffs and thought that, like, I'm not really surprised that they're here. I thought that they were like clearly a top 5 contender after they made these trades at the deadline. The thing that they do is that they can solve a lot of problems that you throw at them, because they have a lot of different lineups that they can put out at you. They can go smaller. They can go bigger. You can go Kyrie at the point. You can go Luka at the point. Whenever you have to take those guys off the court, you have one of them on the court at all times, staggered. I just think that they have a lot of different lineups that allow them to solve problems. I just also think that they're one place without Maxi Kleber that can be a little bit of a hassle is the front court. You can't really play both, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford together. I don't think that would work for them spacing wise. So it's going to have to be something like, Derek Jones potentially guarding Karl Towns, or PJ Washington certainly will get the lion's share of minutes on Karl Towns, I would bet. And that is just like a real size mismatch where I think Towns might be able to shoot over the top. So I go Minnesota here, but I really do love this Dallas team and think that, they very well might have the best player in that series in Luka Doncic.